Welcome back to Pipes Etc., episode number 15. Glad you could stop by. In this episode, I'll be conducting my 7th challenge. It will be between two Virginia Perique Kentucky blends. So, grab your favorite beverage, light up a bowl, and then sit back and try to tune out all the current vitriol. Today I'm smoking some Dunhill the Aperitif in my Rattray's Hail to the King Poker. You know, I usually keep blends in larger storage jars, but I started to put smaller amounts of my blends in these nice little screw cap tins just for daily use. Of course, to make it easier, I printed some labels for them. I like them because these tins screw down more and really make a better seal than the tins that they come in. Also, I like to put a little hydrostone in the tin to help keep it moist. These terracotta stones usually keep the tobacco moist for quite a long time without having to rehydrate it. But all right, on to the challenge. It will be between two blends that I have never tried before. They are Cornell & Diehl's Bluegrass and GLP's Cumberland. Two very interesting contenders, so let's see how they do head to head. And after this challenge, I'm going to keep the winner in my rotation or possibly for another challenge, and then send the other to one of my subscribers so they can give it a try. I'll choose someone that I feel would appreciate the gesture, and hopefully they will find it suitable. Anyway, on to the challenge. To get started, I will read each company's description of their blend. Let's start with the first blend, Cornell & Diehl's Bluegrass. This is how Cornell & Diehl describes their blend. A steady rhythm of bright and red Virginias is joined by an accompaniment of robust Perique and dark-fired Kentucky, making for a spicy little ditty sure to keep you on your toes. All right. Bluegrass comes in Cornell & Diehl's standard 2 and 8 ounce containers. It's nice to have the larger selection. And as usual, I opened the blends earlier so wouldn't cut my fingers. Plus, it gives it a few minutes to open up. I placed them in these small bowls so I could pick through them better. The description states in this blend of Bluegrass is bright and red Virginias, Perique and dark-fired Kentucky. As far as appearance, it's kind of a chunky ribbon cut. It's actually more like a broken flake. The pieces are, I'd say, medium mahogany, brown color, a few darker browns with very few light colored pieces in it. Moisture is about right. It seems like it's ready to pack. On the nose, a peeling sourness like apple cider vinegar is the first note I detect, but not like McClellan's vinegar aroma. It's a lot less sharp. Then there's an earthy sweetness with a little hint of citrus, maybe a figgy-like note as well. Interesting. Well, all right. Let's move on to blend number 2, GLP's Cumberland. And here is how GLP's describes their blend. Robust and possessing a subdued sweetness, Cumberland is a delightfully orchestrated suite of American tobaccos, featuring a rare and exquisite mahogany Kentucky, aged in bales for 20 years. Red and matured Virginias establish a theme. The Kentucky and a pianissimo of Perique create the variations. pure natural tobacco flavors are harmonized by delicate arpeggios and underscored by deep, resonant tones. The coda is lovely and lingering, a perfect finish to a rich performance, best savored slowly. Cumberland also comes in a 2 and 8 ounce container. And as described, this is a blend of Dark Fire Kentucky, Perique, plus red and matured Virginias. This is mostly medium brown ribbons with a few darker pieces. If I pick through it a bit, I find some lighter colored little ribbons. The first impression is a really earthy scent. It's less sweet than bluegrass. Kind of followed by a nice mellow sour note. Again, not as prominent as bluegrass. Above all else, it has a nice, rich tobacco aroma. It's really quite pleasant. Well, and now for the best part. I'll move on to the tasting, and for the next few days or so, I will smoke both the blends side by side. And afterwards, in the following segment, I will share my thoughts and the ratings. So, on to the tasting. Now that I've completed the tasting, I'll give you my opinion and the ratings. But first, I would like to offer you my beverage pairing. When considering the smoking experience with these two blends, I chose a beverage that not only complements the more prominent flavor of the blends, but also helped to bring out the less obvious flavors. I also found it was a good palate cleanser that didn't get overwhelmed by the level of strength of these two blends. And what I chose is Russell's 6-year-old Reserve Straight Rye Whiskey. And this is an older bottling, so the label has changed. The new one looks like this. Russell's Reserve is the premium brand of whiskey from Wild Turkey Distillery. And this is what Russell's had to say about this whiskey. Master distillers and premier whiskey makers Jimmy and Eddie Russell have brought nearly 100 years of combined experience to artfully crafting Russell's Reserve 6-year-old rye. Bottled at 90 proof, this uniquely smooth, hand-selected small batch rye has a crisp, lively taste that they believe to be the perfect 6-year-old rye. Well, it ranks up there with the good ones. The rye notes evolve slowly as the glass sits, so be sure to pour it and let it sit for a few minutes. Yeah, then you'll better detect the rye characteristics. Yeah, a spicy fruitiness with an earthy sweetness like hay. The first impression is that caramel, vanilla, brown sugar kind of sweetness. But then that spiciness of the rye, that kind of black pepper with some allspice and maybe mint. It has that slight tobacco-like taste. Also, there's a somewhat salty, briny taste, but it doesn't really last that long. It's a medium body with a smooth, nice mouthfeel, very pleasant. The finish is long and evolves as it passes. The sweet spice taste is ever present, but then an oaky vanilla-like influence is slightly exposed for a very nice addition. But the spice never dries out. All these flavors just assume a pecking order. The particular combination of taste really lingers, and so don't hurry, you might miss those fine little subtleties. My impression, the spicy character of this rye is subtle but distinguished and remains throughout, even though the sweetness is in the lead slightly. That somewhat overshadowing sweetness is tempered by the satisfying sweetness in the finish, making for a more refined, but it's a very rewarding experience. This is very good. This is what draws bourbon drinkers to drink rye whiskey. That interesting balance of spiciness and sweet. Okay, so let's move on to the first blend. Cornell and Deal's Bluegrass. The Red Virginia is sweet and balanced with a tangy, dark fruit flavor. Here and there are some grassy and citrusy notes from the bright Virginias. The typical spicy raisin-like Perique is quite present, but slightly behind, playing the role as a condiment perfectly. The spiciness never pushed past the level where it lost that subtle yet interesting influence. It's always there in the background. The mildly nutty, dark-fired Kentucky is a bit more noticeable than the Perique, but it's still a supporting player. Thankfully, it did not overshadow the Virginias as I first thought it might. Performance-wise, I packed it a little bit more loose than normal because it seemed to burn slow and required a few more relights. Otherwise, it was a nice, cool, and fairly dry smoke that never got harsh. My impression, a blend of good quality tobaccos with well-balanced flavors, leaving one with the impression that they are better when together than when alone. Nice and harmonious. A bold enough flavor to be quite satisfying, but not so much to take it out of the possibility of being an all-day smoke. Well, maybe for an experienced smoker. Well, all right, now to the next blend, GLP's Cumberland. By the way, I'm smoking these in my RAW. I think these are the classic Briars. Following the aroma, this blend starts with an earthy and sometimes sweet touch to it. Of course, I attribute the sweetness to those Virginias. There's some of the typical influence from Perique, that raisin and rich dark fruit, a bit like stewed prunes. As you smoke it more, there's a bit of a spicy and more smoky element to it. It took a while, but I finally picked up on that nutty characteristic that I had been waiting to see develop. Then when all these flavors were in full swing, I began to taste a nice, rich flavor that reminded me of cocoa. Yeah, especially in the last third of the bowl where the Kentucky really becomes fuller in flavor. Performance, I packed it as I usually do, really nothing special. Easy to light, but may burn a bit faster than expected. Not too much. Smoke's cool and clean. Leaves a nice woodsy kind of room note. My impression, an enjoyable, more rustic tasting blend that is somewhat less complex than I had first realized. It wasn't one-dimensional, but more focused on the qualities of what a good Kentucky and Virginia blend offers. It's not bad. This is just less nuanced. It's also a fairly stout blend. So if you're a bit nicotine sensitive, you might want to take this one slow. All right. On to the ratings. On the Pipes Etc. rating scale, I give Cornell and Deal Bluegrass a rating of distinguished. On the Pipes Etc. rating scale, I give GLP's Cumberland a rating of respectable plus. Let me explain. When looking at the tobaccos used in these blends, they seem quite similar, obviously. But once you experience what they offer, it becomes more clear that they aren't duplicates. Quite the contrary. One is a more nuanced smoke, Bluegrass. The other a more no-frills, get-to-the-point blend, Cumberland. Both quality blends. It just depends on your desire, or maybe even your mood, to choose which one is more suitable for you. My final thoughts are, would I suggest buying either of these blends? Definitely yes. But what appealed to me more about Bluegrass was that I could see myself smoking this more often than Cumberland because of the more approachable and interesting flavor profile, the nuances. Nevertheless, for those that enjoy a bolder, fuller, and nicotine-rich experience, Cumberland is a must-try. To me, Cumberland is just not what I find the more interesting or satisfying as a repeatable experience. Though enjoyable, Cumberland would be a blend I experience far less frequently. It's simple as that. So you choose which fits your particular craving. There you have it. My next video will be the Backroads Journal, and it will be a visit to a historical site here in Texas that is well known worldwide. So watch for that video coming real soon. Well, that's all I have for this 15th episode of Pipes Etc. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up. If you want to receive notifications when my next video has posted, click the little bell. And finally, please join in and add to the conversation by adding your comments. Thank you for stopping by Pipes Etc. And I hope you will again. Until then, good day. Oh yes.